Nice to hear your voices, guys. Hello, everyone. I'll just introduce the talk and so we can get started. I want to thank everyone for joining us today for this AZURE talk on cross-cultural collaboration. I also want to thank the Italian Cultural Institute for making it happen. And I want to, of course, welcome our panelists, Luca Niquetto and John Baker. I'm going to introduce you both to our audience. I'm sure you don't need an introduction to them, but here goes. So Luca Niquetto is based in Stockholm, but originally from Murano. He founded his practice in 2006. He has served as art director for a great many international design brands and has developed beautiful collections for a broad range of the world's most design-forward manufacturers. These include Della Espada, Mui, Perelcilna, Bernhardt Design, Ofect, and of course, Toronto's own Mjölk. So John Baker founded Mjölk with his wife, Julie Daoust, in 2009. And while the retail store features Scandinavian and Japanese brands, Mjölk has itself become a producer in its own right, creating homewares through the Mjölk Made collection. This is an annual series that explores the theme of daily ritual, and it pairs international designers like Luca Niquetto, Anderson and Vol, Clayson Koivisto Rune, with artisans from in and around Toronto. So welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so we're going to talk about collaborations, your collaborations together, and then we're going to talk a bit about collaboration in general. I want to invite our attendees to ask questions using the Q&A module at the bottom of your screen. So if you have questions, don't use chat, use Q&A. That way they'll be more visible to us. So we're hoping to just have some time left over at the end for your questions. And, but I'm the one who gets to ask all the questions first. So let's get started. Luca, I just wanted you to tell us how you first came upon this amazing little design shop in Toronto's Junction neighborhood.
Yeah, it was a few years ago now. Time flies. And I was in Toronto for the first time in my life. And a good friend of mine, Eero Koivisto, that is one of the founder of Clayson Koivisto Rune, we were hanging out and I mentioned to him that I was going to Toronto to do this talk. And he said, you need absolutely going to visit this beautiful store that is called Mjölk. And so he really, you know, selling John and Julie properly to me. And then I was, okay, I really need to go there. Otherwise, if I come back to Sweden and I say that I didn't visit, that he will kill me. And then I remember that I take a cab from I was staying at a hotel in downtown in Toronto. So I take the cab and the driver was driving for a while. And I was thinking, wow, this is taking so long to arrive. Where is this, this store? And I didn't have the idea that Toronto was so big. And so then finally I arrived in this beautiful neighborhood. And so I saw the store, I came in and John recognized me immediately. So I was quite, you know, for my ego as a designer was amazing. But was very beautiful, a very nice welcoming. And so, you know, sometimes you had really the feeling that there is a special chemistry since the first moment that you met a person, and that was exactly what happened.
Mm-hmm. And John, you had already been working on the Mjölk Made line. So can you tell us a bit about what the intention of that endeavor was for you?
Yeah,
was it to promote Canadian craft, or was it, you know, to work with these international designers?
It started off as kind of doing a more of a retrospective of Clayson Koivisto Rune, who Eero is the one who introduced Luca to the store. So in a way, we wanted to invite those architects. We want to kind of show the work that they've done in the past, and it was their idea actually. They were obviously flattered to show their previous work, but they wanted this opportunity to present something new, and go a little further, make it more meaningful, and actually create something specifically for the exhibition, right? So they were the ones who came up with like, well, could we do like a small object? And for me, it was really exciting, the idea of, like these guys were, we're number one fans, obviously. And we don't know a lot about production, like on a mass scale, but we do know a lot of craftspeople. Our store, it draws in that those are our customers and people in our community. So instead of taking this idea of doing like a little milk and sugar set, we actually didn't go to a factory. We went to the individual craftspeople. And it was more of a limited thing, and it was a special thing, and they gave us a lot of confidence, and they preferred it to, as opposed to being a mass-produced object, be more of an art object. And that set the criteria. So once we did that show, and the second Luca came in, I was excited because I was a fan of Luca's. But I thought that this idea of kind of working with an international designer and doing something really ritualized, really special, something that I can enjoy, they can enjoy, customers, people like us can enjoy. It just set it all in motion.
And as I understand it, you guys immediately connected. Luca even had his sketchbook open right upon meeting you. What was that like?
I think we went to get a coffee across the street, or like, and then Luca, he has a sketchbook, so we were talking about doing something together, and I think he immediately just started like scribbling and coming up with ideas, and looking back, it was so natural and normal, but it's kind of crazy to think about. But maybe that's like, I didn't know any better, so I was like, oh, this is design. He's just obviously has all, like, it's just really creative and just can just come up with these ideas. But I think that there was that chemistry we had. I think that kind of set things off, right?
Yeah, but it was amazing also the way that somehow you pitched me, that really, touched the right point, because I remember you say, okay, we did an object with Kleisonkovistoruna that is a set for milk and stuff that can be used in a certain way. It could be nice to do something with Italian like you about coffee. And then I was like, oh, wow, this guy is talking about coffee with me. And then I was immediately, engaged on that part. And I really, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but I truly believe that Mjölk was and is one of the best store that I visited all around the world for the curation of what the product they are selling, but especially for the patient that John and Julie and the team are putting on what they are doing. So it's not just selling, a product, but it's really, for me, beautiful. And I was really astonished when I saw the offer and the quality and the details, the craft. They are just offering to users the opportunity to learn about craftsmanship and passion for beautiful object that is also like timeless in a way.
So let's look at some of the objects that you two created together. Let's start with the reunion lamp, because that's kind of a nice metaphor for cross-cultural collaboration. So Luca, can you tell us a bit about how this piece came together?
So this lamp was I designed it immediately after that. I have my second exhibition in Mjölk. The first time was kind of retrospective. The second time was with De La Spada brand that I'm working with. And me, John, and Julie, we were talking about doing something new together. And then I knew that they was coming to Stockholm in February, the February of the next year. And then I started thinking, well, could be beautiful to create a kind of metaphor in the shape point of view, but also in the material point of view. So in the shape point of view, this lamp is done by, the base is the shape, is a cone, like the Suka Baruka, the first object that I designed for Mjölk. And the shade is the cup, let's say the bowl, that is part of the aureola T-set body. And then there was also this idea to find a producer. The base is made in Murano, my own town, my own island. That is a little island close to Venice, famous all around the world for the glass industry. And then the shade is produced in Toronto. So it was really okay. And then the first time that personally I create the union of the two pieces was here in Stockholm during the couple of days before the exhibition that we were, when we planned to show the lamp. Mm-hmm. And one of the most beautiful things of this project is that open up a new way to think also how to use the connection that both of us, me and John, we have in terms of manufacturers, suppliers, etc. So to show and to prove that it's possible to do an object that is produced in two different places, but with the kind of same attention in details and the craftsmanship, and then just putting together, and magically is taking out, is coming out a beautiful object, at mm-hmm. least for me, and I hope for many people. And the interest, there is also another part that, you know, normally a lamp is done with the glass shade and the base in metal. So normally the transparent part is opposite of, and we really want to experiment also to see how the light in a way can change the usual way to build a lamp, and to emphasize the transparencies and the thickness and also the imperfection that the handmade glass sometimes can create.
Mm-hmm. And John, can you tell us a bit about the metal lampshade and who you worked with on that?
Yeah, no problem. So we actually worked with one of the, you know, the great metal spinners here in Canada. They're also, they happen to be, I believe it's Canada's oldest oil lamp maker. They're called Harnish Lamps, and they do a lot of the metal work for us. So the shade here, they do bodies of a watering can that we produced with Anderson Ball. So it's one of those interesting things. I mean, doing anything like lighting, all of our favorite lights are generally from Europe, and there's always some issues, you know, kind of bringing European lighting over. You have to rewire them. So making something actually that is, you know, is designed by, you know, an international designer, but we produce the electrical components and the shade components here in Toronto, make things incredibly convenient, you know, for us. And also the scale. I mean, the base is quite large scale. So being able to not have to ship, you know, a big finished lamp here is amazing. But when we brought the glass from Murano to Harnish, I mean, they're old enough, they remember they were getting their glass from Holmgard from Denmark originally. Holmgard sold, they switched productions, I believe, to Poland. So they haven't seen, nothing against Polish glass, by the way, they do good glass, but they hadn't seen really beautiful quality Murano glass, and they were taken aback. I mean, it was especially how thick the gray and the amber is. You get like the clear exterior, you get a rippling effect. So they were pretty blown away, you know, to have that. I mean, we're used to seeing, you know, Murano glass more like in these large chandeliers and more kind of, you know, a little bit busier, and to have it kind of reduced. And you'll see maybe on the smaller objects like the uki, where you know, it's all about material. You know, it's very simplified forms, but the material gets to kind of shine, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll return to Murano as a material. I just wanted to also talk a bit about the Suka Baruka, which is the the coffee set that was sort of the counter proposal to the tea sets. John and Julie are big fans of the ritual of tea. So a lot of your international designers have created tea sets, but then Luca came around and was like, let's do a coffee set. Can you tell us a bit about how this came together?
Me and John.
Luca, why don't you start?
Okay. And the it's funny because, you know, as a classical Italian guy, we are a little bit arrogant. We think that all around the world people are drinking espresso coffee, but it's not true. In the end, when you are traveling, you discover that it's not the most famous coffee. There is a lot of countries that have prefer like filter coffee. So when I started thinking about this project, the first thing I was saying, I want to do something that is also matching not only my culture, but also different culture. So, and then at that time, I was very close with a Russian designer, Lera Moiseva, that she was just graduated, and she moved to live in New York. And I want to help her in a way to, you know, starting also her own career. And I knew that there was an opportunity to do something together with this project. And we start thinking also through my first ideas I was sharing with her. We have this kind of ping pong game between us. And then magically we decide that it was very nice to create a ritual, and the ritual, we immediately look at the idea of totem that you can connect, and you can see in this version of Suka Baruka that with this kind of strong and bright colors, that there was a kind of connection with the work of one of my favorite Italian master, that is Ettore Sozzas, that he experiment a lot about the ideas of totem. And plus, there was also this kind of, how to say, humor that I always love to put in some of my projects. In Italy, when I was a kid, there was this television advertising about a brand that was producing coffee. And they have this character that was called Carmencita. And the shape of this character was a sort of comic. It was like a cone with a hat of a Mexican hat, and it was a pretty funny things that you really recognize the brand for that. So the body of the Suka Baruka, the black one that we can see here, it's the shape and the let's say the part where the coffee is coming out that looks like a nose, is somehow reflecting that kind of character. And then because especially when, you know, you create a ritual, there is this kind of intimacy also with the person that you are doing this ritual. So we really want to calculate properly the amount of coffee that you can do. And we decide to design only 2 cups. And you can see here, there is 3 cups because we don't want to do a special piece, but we want to use the cups also to put the red cone, that is the one that contains the filter. So the beautiful thing of this project, apart of, let's say, the design and the storytelling behind and the encounter between me and John, is also that through this project, I met Alisa Ko, that she was producing this object for us, and she did a crazy experiment because the color porcelain is really the body of the porcelain have the same color. So it was not only glaze or paint, and so the materiality become beautiful. And so we did 3 versions. The first one that is more like Memphis, another one, this one that was a little bit more pale, more pastel color. And then we did a 3rd version that was white, and with the idea, right, John, to do this as a limited edition in the beginning. But then the people loved so much that John and Julie was amazing that they find the opportunity also to produce the white version directly in Japan. That is not so matte, it is more like glossy, but that is the one that I use every day also in my office.
Yeah, the one in Japan,
Yeah.
in Japan, you know, it's we actually tried to do matte white to match kind of what Alyssa did, and Alyssa's work is so beautiful. All the lines on the cups and on the funnel or on the body, they're done by hand. So I mean, it really is a very special minimal set. So replicating it was we didn't want to, you know, we attempted to replicate, we couldn't, and so we just kept going back and forth with glaze tests. And then I was like, I give up. What would you guys? I mean, the company we're working with, they've been around 300 years, making porcelain in Arica, Japan, which is famous, a very famous area for porcelain. And they're like, well, we've used this glaze, this white glaze. It's more of a light gray blue. This is what we use traditionally. They did it, and it was amazing. It's more special because it's different. Everyone who gets their hand on these objects, they put themselves in it, you know, which is really, really nice. The other funny thing is when we actually visited them in Japan, and when they showed us the set that they made, I was like, well, there's something different. I mean, I think you guys got the size wrong. I don't know if we sent you the right drawings. And they're like, oh, no, we know. They had a drawing, a one-to-one drawing. It's the same. One-to-one means it's the same size. They took theirs and they put it on the drawing, and it fit perfectly. It's like the difference is that ours is perfect. Ours is it's the actual size. When the limited ones, obviously they're handmade, so they fluctuated from piece to piece. So we did a limited of 30. Had to keep going. It's become, I mean, iconic. We won a wallpaper design award for it. I don't think a lot of Canadians have won, you know, recognized in that way. It went on to be shown at the Paul Smith shop. I think Luca, you have a story about. Did you get a painting in the mail, or you got a nice note from an admirer?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's one of the best things that happened. I think for me, my entire career, that there was a prisoner in the States, U.S., that during the time in the prison, in the jail, he decided to paint and to do a sort of portrait of Suka Baruka. And then he asked to some of the guard of the jail to please, can you send this the picture and a text that I will wrote to you directly to the mail of Luca. So I received one day this email that was saying that he was so thankful because we inspired him and to see this coffee set, give him this idea to create a portrait of that. So in a way, the object was not just so and used for the function, but becomes something that in a way inspire a person in a special condition in that time and give him something, you know, fun to do. And as a designer, I think, and I'm sure also for John as a producer in his case, to inspire people and to create something that you can make a special relation with the object, doesn't matter the function. That, I mean, is the dream when you are trying to do something like that. Mm-hmm. And I still conserve that email and that drawings that they send me in a very jealous way. Normally I put in trash a lot of email, but this one, no.
Where would he have seen the actual tea set? Do you think he just was like on a design blog, or?
I have no idea. Probably, I think he probably saw in a magazine.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he saw in a magazine. It was public in a magazine, and maybe in the jail they have this kind of. I'm sure that he saw or in the magazine or in a newspaper. I don't remember right now.
Well, speaking of the symbolic value of objects, there's also a huge symbolic value to Murano glass, especially for you personally, Luca, having grown up there. Can you tell us a bit about the state of Murano glass production and how you've become an ambassador in a way for the material and for the people who produce it?
Well, you know, I'm in Stockholm right now, so I moved to live in Stockholm approximately permanently like 5 years ago. But let's say I started to come to Sweden since 10 years ago, and I was dividing my life 2 weeks here and 2 weeks in Italy. So I think in the moment that you feel really deeply inside yourself an immigrant, you start to appreciate even more your origin. And I think it's the process that happened to me. And maybe not only with the food, as with many Italians happen, but mostly with the really special things that is part of really the tradition of my island. So you need to know that, for example, my grandfather was a glass blower, my mother was decorating glass. 99.99% of the people that I grew up was involved in the glass industry. And since then, the crisis and the fact that the labor cost was growing, the use functional object was not anymore so popular in Murano, because the cost of a glass to drink water, for example, with one glass of Murano, you can buy, I don't know, 300 glasses from IKEA. So there was also changing the education of people to appreciate the craftsmanship. And the society was changing and switching in a more, let's say, affordable and fast way to consume object. So that the Murano started to decline drastically. And then, without to speak about the situation right now, that is a tragedy, because in the last period, I mean, not the last, in the last 10 years, as not only Murano, but also Venice, everything was focusing only on the tourism. And the city become very depending. All the industry in the city, all the activities in the city depend only about the tourist and the traffic of tourists. And so, knowing that this was changing a lot, I started thinking that as a designer, is also part of our mission to try to not, I mean, I'm not trying to change the world, but just trying to make my small action with, and trying to see if my little brick that I'm able to do can help to maintain and to build something else. So my first ideas was, after the experiment, because it was a pure experiment with John, to see if I can, produce in Murano through friends that maybe own a factory, or to people that I know, and to connect Murano with the world, to see if I can offer to them the opportunity to continue to develop something, but plus showing to them, I mean people from Murano, that it's possible to see the Murano glass differently, not just a brand or a producer, but also as a supplier of amazing quality. Mm-hmm. And in the same time, educate the people all around the world what the Murano glass mean. For example, in Murano, there is, I don't know how many now still is alive, but every company have their special and secret recipe, how they are doing their own colors. So the color of the red color of one company is different from the red color of another company. So for me, thinking about my kids, that maybe one day they are going Murano and they don't see anymore this. For me, I mean, I was breaking my heart. And I think it's not just production of business, the things that I'm trying to maintain, but it's also trying to protect a culture, because is, I mean, the glass in Venice is 1,000 years that is done, and the way that is done have so many influence coming from Austria and from many countries. So it is a little bit like food, no? It's part of a culture, is a heritage, is much more than what is a single object. So, and I think through my skill, my work, my job, my passion, I'm trying where I can to see if I can promote that. And I start with glass, and I hope in the future to continue also not only with glass, but also with other kind of manufacture. From porcelain to gold to many things. I think it's really something where we need to put our attention and try to re-educate again the users to give the right value to these kind of things, and trying to make them to consume better. Also because when you are buying an object that have a sort of value, and of course cost much more, you can be also more environmental friendly, because an object like that can stay for much longer time than for others that maybe are done quickly and the quality is very low.
Mm-hmm. There is a timelessness to Murano glass, and there's also timelessness to the collections that Mjölk is doing. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is that one of your collaborations with Mjölk, the Uki candle holder, actually inspired a bigger collaboration with another manufacturer. Can you tell us a little bit about how this little object ended up becoming impetus for something else?
I need to pay the royalties to John about that, because he's my agent almost now. No, I mean, this little object was really, we want to do this candle holder, a multi-light. And then when I designed this, I realized that then we did a reunion lamp, we did the little vases for Mjölk, and this kind of, connecting Murano with a producer, with a brand like Mjölk, we realized that can work. And sometimes, bigger brands are a little bit skeptical. They want to have the control of the supply chain. They want to know from, so they don't want to use source that they don't know and they don't have experience to work before. They were scary about the price. So, but then happened to me that I had the opportunity to work with Svensk, that is a legendary brand here in Sweden. And the supplier of the Uki lamp, that is also a famous factory in Murano that is called Nason Moretti, that won also the Compasso d'Oro in the past. So one of the most prestigious design award in Italy, with their own glasses.
They also produced our AZ Award trophy, right?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
I had to throw in a little plug for the AZ Award.
Yeah, no, but I mean, I was telling later that. No, but
okay. Go ahead, sorry.
So then Svensk asked me to do this project with them, and I saw this beautiful textile of Josef Frank that is called terrazzo, and terrazzo is this special writer that is very famous in Venice, because all the palace in Venice is done with terrazzo for also static reason. They invented for that reason this little stone, but if they put a slide of marble, it was cracking. And so I take the inspiration from this textile and I start to design these lamps, this collection of lamps for Svankstand that is this like huge pearl. And then when there was the moment to realize this product, I was showing as an example the Uki lamp that I did for Mjölk as a reference, plus another project that I did for Salviati, and showing that there was the opportunity to really, producing the glass in Murano and then shipping and having the metal part done locally. And that was the result. So in a way, without the Uki candle holder, it was impossible to do this lamp because I would never came out with this idea. So that is the reason why I'm saying I need to pay the royalties to John.
I love this lamp. As you know, it's so beautiful. I got to go to the exhibition at Spanx 10, and you walk through it like a forest. They had them all, on the floor, and it was amazing. It's so beautiful.
They're beautiful. So let's talk now a little bit about your collaborations, cross-cultural collaborations that you've done with other people. So John, we'll start with you. You're continuing. It's now been about 10 years of collaborating with the Mjölk Made line, and you're now working with Anderson and Bull and Oji Masanori. I'm just wondering what somebody, a Japanese designer like Oji Masanori finds exciting about having their work realized in Toronto.
Yeah, I think it's really it's an exotic experience because obviously he designs in with with the suppliers that are local that he's really quite intimate with. So I think he had to go a little bit out of his comfort zone. But with a lot of the designers that we've worked with in the past, we know them really well. We've hosted him doing several exhibitions. So we developed trust, and we brought him actually to Toronto, and we had him meet with Harnish in person. So we actually took him to the metal studio, so he could kind of connect with them. He could see the types of work that they do well, and to kind of design to their skills, as opposed to introduce something completely out of their comfort zone. He utilized what they do really well. So something like this, which would be challenging to do this at the diamond pendant light. It's on a counterweight pulley system, so you have to get the glass, and you have to get that diamond counter, which is like machined brass diamond, balanced for it to function well. So the glass is made here in Windsor, Ontario, and then all the metal components are made here in Toronto. Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that like we did a good job working with international designers in the beginning, and they actually lifted us up, to be honest. I mean, they had really great publicity, and so it was very generous for them to lend their name to us. And so and the Janstol by Anderson Vault. So we built these friendships, this trust system, and then we kind of got secretly Canadian, right? Like we were using all the Canadian producers, giving them a bit of a boost. And then now we're working with Canadian designers and producers like Tom Fougere, who does the daybed and the tambour hutch and the fire tools. So now I think we couldn't have done it the opposite way. I think if we just were a Canadian store, we just had Canadian stuff, I think that we might have made a nice name for us here in Toronto. I think the work would have been good either way, but having it be being lifted by people like Luca and Anderson Ball and Placing Vista Rune, that was it wasn't. We're not like the very sophisticated business geniuses or anything. Like we just liked these people. We got along really well. And I'm really proud. Like we everything is still in production. And they don't go bad. They don't expire. So we, as opposed to where you see an object now might come out and do really well, and then 2 years later you can't order it again. It's been discontinued. These things, it's not that they sold it really quick. They took time, but we're in like year 5, year 6, and they're doing better year after year. And then if you work with that same designer for multiple projects, those measly little commission checks, I mean, they start to build a little bit, right? And then those orders with those local manufacturers, they build, because it's not one object anymore. It's 6, 7, 8 products, right, that they're simultaneously making. So it's taken some time. And a lot of trust has gone into it, but now I think it's paying back a little bit, which is really good.
Yeah, and so returning to that idea of, you know, the smaller, the smaller housewares that you created with international designers, having led to this point where you're now doing furniture collections. Do you think that the next step for you might also be to work with international designers on bigger collections?
I don't know.
Didn't mean to put pressure on you right there, but
You know, if anyone who knows us really well knows that we really don't like expansion. You know what I mean? We don't want to have another Mjölk store. We don't want to, like, we just want to do things, you know, in a very small, measured way, and things that we really, really like. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that. But my dream is that you know, the Mjölk pieces. I mean, we get such a lift from selling anything that we make. I mean, it's worth so much more to us if somebody buys something that we're making, because we know all the things behind it. So definitely getting from the reunion lamp represents the departure from small ritual objects to these larger pieces. So that's the stepping stone. And so doing these larger pieces, that's like, I don't think we've already achieved all of our, like, these are all goals laid out that we never thought we would do, and we're kind of just, you know, we're not getting too far ahead of ourselves, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
John, I just designed a bed for you.
While you were talking, Luca was designing an
Well, I have Luca's bed. I have the Dubois bed. It's my favorite bed. It's got the built-in, you know, bedside tables that remind me of the Sukabruka tray. Yeah, I have it in blue velvet, which is so not like us. But yeah, Luca does beautiful beds.
And so that idea of, you know, being, you know, taking it slow and steady also relates back to using independent artisans and doing things a bit differently. You're not doing like a huge manufacturing push, but you are bolstering these smaller producers. Is that sort of a main ethos of what you want to continue doing? Or is it just something that has happened as a result of wanting to explore these different collections?
I think that, you know, it's a result of circumstance. So the beautiful thing that happened was we don't necessarily have access to mass manufacturing here. You know, we didn't have those contacts in place. Our instinct was never, let's go, oh, well, we don't have mass manufacturing, let's go to a country that does, and we can facilitate that. That was never the goal. The goal was always the idea of the heirloom object, things that you'd buy it once, things that I think that actually will become more valuable in time. They're rarefied just because there aren't an unlimited amount that you could produce, right? Even right now, we're during COVID, so we can't produce to the quantities that we're actually currently selling. Because the manufacturers, they've reduced, right? So we can make 2 fire tools a week. That's it. It's absolutely limited to how many we can produce, right? So, no, I think it's a new way of looking at it. It's a different type of goal. I had to make sure the designers were willing to share with that goal. Where if they were like, well, I can't, I got, you know, I have kids, I got to pay the rent, and I can't take these projects because they just won't make me money the way I, you know, I need to be paid, right? And if that was the case, it wouldn't have been a good fit. I mean, there has to be a little bit of understanding with the units that are sold, but that the pieces we do sell are going to be made exceptionally well to a very high standard, and we want to keep that, you know. So yeah, it's nice. I mean, we make almost everything within, like, literally a 10-minute drive from the store, which is very convenient for me. It's a necessary convenience. I live above my store, so of course I can't go too far. Yeah, it's nice though, and I think that those manufacturers, it and craftspeople, I mean, they're seeing their work in a different way. You know, they're being paid to explore different ideas that maybe they could potentially utilize later in their own work. So I don't know, it's really good. And I mean, somebody like Alyssa Coe, who's an incredibly skilled artisan, like, working with Luca, she gets a lift, but then she does her own, her studio work is more like art pieces. So there's this, it's just I don't know, it's a really good, positive, community. It's great.
And now Alyssa is living in Italy, isn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Full
amazing.
circle.
She moved, I think she's living in Piemonte,
Yeah.
in the north.
In the north. Luca, what is the benefit for you then in working on such a, as John said, you're not going to make huge royalty checks out of working on a Mjölk project, but what's the final result for you? What is the satisfaction in that collaboration?
Well, I'm doing much more royalties with John than with a bigger company that I was hoping that it was selling much more. In the end, I have royalties that is like a slide of a pizza per every 3 months. So I don't think I don't think, of course, I have my employee, I have my studio. Of course, I have the bill to pay every month, but I didn't start to be this career with the dream to make money. I was more with the dream to have the freedom to do what I really like most, and of course take years before to make this dream be sustainable economically. But I still every time the first instinct that I have when I'm doing a project is mostly what I can achieve with that project in terms of really my patient. And when you met people, and luckily you met people like John and Julie, the money is not the goal. It's more what you can really do if these people have share your same value, they have your vision. So you can go more deeply in things that you can never be able anymore, or maybe before COVID, to do with the classical design industry, because there is completely other parameters. There is not right and wrong, but it's other parameters. So I always like my portfolio mixing big brands, super big companies, and also working with startup coming from China that nobody knows. Or I really like this idea that, there is a lot of people that say democratic design means that need to be cheap and affordable. I think democratic design is more when you are very democratic in the way that you are working with the different company. It doesn't matter if they are small, bigger, mass production, handcraft. I think it's this mix and the inspiration that you can take from a part into another, and just pushing maybe a mass production company to be a little bit more, putting a little bit more attention in details in the craft and the longevity of the product. And maybe for a smaller company to think a little bit differently in terms of how to promote, how to simplify the production also if it's still very artisan. So I like this idea to be a sort of, like a director of orchestra where there is a lot of musician. Every musician have his specific instruments, and maybe I don't know how to play the instrument, but I know how to move these things and make a beautiful concert. So, and I like that what is driving me is very important for me is my patient. And my patient, first of all, in the design world is people before than the name of the company. And I always follow that, and I will continue to follow. And I hope that I'm not crashing somewhere.
And now that we're physically distanced, how do you keep your passion alive, being apart from people, if that really fuels your creativity?
I'm watching a lot of TV series in Netflix and a documentary on Maradona, last one.
Oh, right. As are we all.
That he was a very creative person. And no, I think, of course, it's important, especially from the manufacturing point of view. We are a small community in the end. The design world is, we talk about world, but in the end, we are a very tiny community. And I try to, of course, be in touch with the network of people that I feel that we are, sharing the same value. And finally, I have much more time to be in my studio and drawing and thinking and be creative to think about what I want to do next. I'm trying not to look too much what was the past. So I'm not, for example, one of the person that is hoping that after the COVID, everything will be like before. For sure, there will be different things, and thanks God, there will be different things. So it means that as a creative person, we can also try to adapt to different things and to be even more creative and doing new things for new needs. So it's really like a kind of time to explore more what before I didn't have the time to explore. So I am doing tons of video call and phone call. But I believe that it's very important acting as community to help each other. I'm not saying that because I want to look like a saint, but I truly believe that it's important for us to establish designer, to think about new talent and help them to have a support and connect them maybe with a network of people that they were not able to develop because they don't have so many experience. And this kind of mentorship is not just to, as I say, to appear bigger or more, generous, but I think it's very important for the sustainability of our community, because the young people is the one that somehow have fresh eyes. They are a little bit more naive, and they can also push us somehow to stay with this young mind. So, I mean, there is so many things that can help you to stay active and finding inspiration. Plus, I have two little kids. One is 5, the other 2. That is probably the most. I mean, I need to be creative to manage them. So
I think John probably has the same challenge, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So that's interesting. Thank you for bringing up the point about mentorship. I think it's important that we start thinking about young designers going forward and how we can support them through this crisis. But I also, we are nearing the last 5 minutes of our conversation, and we do have questions. So are you up to answering some of our audience questions? There's a few here. I'm gonna, they're big questions. So good luck, guys. First question is for John. What do you think is in store for the future of Toronto's design scene?
Oh, yeah, I think the design scene is going to expand outside of Toronto. It already has. You have designers like MSDS working with Muto and Skagerrak. I think that is going, as these Nordic brands continue to grow. I think that they're already looking outside of Scandinavia, and they want to have designers that have that kind of have a Nordic feel, but have a unique voice. And I think that Canada is quite unique in that perspective. It is a Nordic culture in a weird way, or Nordic, regionally Nordic. And I don't know, we're kind of tuned into that. So I think that you'll see some Toronto designers, I think, scooped up by those Nordic brands. Especially, they're also trying to appeal to us in North America. I think they want to have more presence here. So I think that that's really positive. I think that the designer maker is going to continue to grow. I think when you have things like social media, you can self promote very well. I mean, I'm at the point, I'm a retailer and I have to tell those designers makers, hey, like, I don't know if you should be in my store. I don't think I should say. I think that, you know, you're going to get half, you're going to make half the money for, you know, the same amount of work. And I feel like even if you sell half of what I would sell, you end up even, you know, and then you can spend more time with your kids, which I think is a good thing. So I think we have to think about that. I think so. I think design makers are going to continue. And I don't know, we need to help our own community. I think we need to kind of, you know, if you live in Toronto, I think it's a good thing if you support somebody who's making something locally. Because I don't know if we're quite there to sell it internationally. I don't know if people in Europe are like, well, I'm going to order that because it's Canadian. Maybe we'll get there, but you know, we need the after COVID, we need the fairs to kind of come back, and you have to go there. You have to actually go to Europe. You have to kind of show there in order to be known. Good question. I don't have a crystal ball, but I think it's good. I think it's COVID has obviously it slowed everything down, but I don't think the train's gonna stop. I think we're gonna keep growing, which is good.
The next question is similar, but it's for Luca. What are your thoughts or insights on the Canadian design scene?
Well, of course, from the first time that I went to Toronto during I think it was 2013, probably, that we have my exhibition Mjölk. So it's 7 years ago. It was very dynamic, and I really like the community, not only the trade show, but most the off
The offsite.
Yeah, exactly. That was probably in the beginning somehow, and you know, as many things is in the beginning, you have these special vibes of the enthusiasm of people and doing things and showing things. So it was a beautiful energy, and I saw that that energy was growing and developing, as I say, as John described, also new designers figure that I think have the talent to become a very important player in the international community. I think, of course, still a pretty young, let's say, design community comparing, of course, with Europe or Japan, etc. But I kind of like that because there is more freedom to shape it, right, and to be more specific related to your own, to Canada in that way. So, well, as John mentioned, for example, there is some companies in Canada that I was observing how they mutate their branding and their offer and becoming very Scandic. That I don't think is a good thing personally. I think, but it's part of the process. I mean, it's part of the process to find your own identity. But it's a good that somehow is moving. And but I think Canada. I mean, I'm working in the States, and I work also in Canada, and it's probably the most European, part of the America, and so I feel very comfortable. And there is also cultural-wise, it's much easier for me many times to speak with a Canadian than with Americans. I'm now generalizing, but so we are more common point, and I think. As the base of design, there is always a culture. And if Mjölk or other players are building up this culture with a very straight vision, what they want to offer, and a very clear mission, I think also for the designer that are based there is amazing to have this opportunity. So this, as Mjölk, for example, can, for me, from a European perspective, more than a store, more than a retailer, more than a editor, for me, it's become a sort of hub. And that is what, in my opinion, is necessary in Canada. And I think soon, very soon, we will see a lot of Canadian designer makers or just designers that will succeed also internationally.
Mhm. Yeah, and as John has said, we're already seeing some people break through into the European market. We still have a lot of people watching, so maybe one more question.
Also two, if you want.
Okay, we have more than one question. They're big questions, so
we can try to be short, but I mean, it's the part that I love most, to try to give answer. I don't know if for John is the same, but
try this one. This one we're zooming out to the world. So how has the furniture industry changed since your initial collaboration? Luca, from a designer's perspective, John, from a retailer's perspective, and where do you see it heading?
well, changed drastically.
Just in the last year, yes.
In the last year, or since I started to be a designer? I didn't understand, sorry.
Since your initial collaboration, so yeah, the longer view.
Well, changed totally. Because when I designed my first piece of furniture in 2004, that was a chair for an Italian brand that is called Cristallia.
Mm-hmm.
And before that chair, I designed only glass object and lamps. So that was really the first piece of furniture. And I think changed drastically because the acceleration of the industry in promoting and creating new products since, my opinion, 2010 become exponential. So, and I'm criticizing also my category as a designer. I think all the designers all around the world for 10 years, we were not doing design, but we were doing style, because we didn't have, we were inside this kind of washing machine, that there was not really the time to go deeply inside the project and trying to really innovate in the way that design should do. But we were just working through the experience of the previous project to try to manage the time frame that was very short. So that creates this kind of homology in also because the industry in the same time, especially the furniture company, become much more focused in the commercial point of view. So, and I'm talking about, for example, the Italian brand, most of them was acquired by venture capital. So when a venture capital is investing in a design brand, most of the time, 99.99%, they want profit. So the profit sometimes is fighting with the time of developing good projects. And so we were pressed as a slide of prosciutto in the middle of these two things, and we need to perform. But we don't have, how to say, we were not so clear, I think, all of us, to understand that there was happening this change, because everything was starting going faster and faster and faster. And then change also a lot the rules of the designer. So in the beginning, you don't need to promote yourself. You don't need to create your press release. You don't need to have your Instagram account or Facebook account to create content to explain who you are. That part was more in the hand of the companies. So if you were working with a good companies, was the companies that was doing PR for you. But the most important thing was not the PR, but was the product. So was the quality of the project that you were doing that say if you were a good designer or not, if you were successful or not. So the problem, I think, since, let's say, 2004 until before the COVID, that means 8-9 months ago, there was a drastic acceleration, as I mentioned, that make people in the industry losing a little bit the ideas what means design really, and we were lost. And thanks God, in a way, we had the chance to stop, to rethink in a way, and rethink completely the industry. So how many times, I mean, people was speaking about consumers or customers, and just that for me is kind of weird. Why do people need to consume furniture? I mean, it would be better to speak about users that are using the furniture. So just that changed everything in terms of perspective of what we need to do. So I really hope, I'm not saying that we need to go back to the past, but I hope somehow there will be parameters that help us to have more time to be focused in good projects. So maybe there will be less. And as another designer, famous one, say, maybe less is better.
It's funny, Luca. Everything you say, you said. It's the same experience as a retailer. Venture capitalism is it has to be the worst thing to happen to design. To all the companies I worked in the past with, it's so drastically different working with a furniture maker today, a furniture manufacturer. I mean, if you followed us through the years, you'll see the companies we work with shrink gradually, and it usually happens in the spirit of efficiency. You know, it starts off with you get to talk with you know, somebody who works at the office, you know, like maybe in that country, and you develop like years of relationships, you know, like it could be a long, like 8 years friendship. And then they say, well, you know what, we were just purchased by, you know, a company, and it's so much more efficient. We're going to have somebody, you know, in New York, they're going to be your new contact. Like there it is. And it's going to be even better because you won't even have to talk to them. You can make an online order through our portal. You can choose the fabric. You can, if you need the fabric sample, don't worry. We will charge you for that sample and the DHL shipping. We will charge, don't worry, it's gonna be so much better. It is so different from it used to be, you'd talk to the manufacturer, they're like, you know, we're doing well. We're making really good pieces and it was fine. And there was no sales pressure. Now I get like reports, how are you doing this quarter? It's so different. The culture is different. It's less fun to be in that culture. It's nice to be like, oh, we grew, but if you don't grow, it's like, what can we do to make you, you know, how can we make it more efficient?
Then you have this part, and then you have also the part that is like, you see the quality of the product that is going down and down and down because they need margin more and more and more. So in the end, I mean, honestly, maybe it's against what I'm doing, but how many sofa or how many chair we need to design per year? I mean, last year, including this one, because it's not finished, I was gonna to launch during the Salone like 6 or 7 family of sofas for different brands. And now I realize, say, wow, I did 6, 7 family of sofas or 3 chairs or what. And what I want to say is that, I mean, the world don't need such a, and I'm talking about only by myself, multiplicate that for all of us, is coming out a circus of product that don't have the time to be absorbed by the users to appreciate what is the real value of what you did. Because after 6 months, there will be another tons of new product coming out. And that was where we were.
What's the life cycle now? Like, is it 6 months? That's like really, I mean, maybe 2 years, and then maybe it's kind of gets slowly at the back of the catalog.
Yeah, but I remember that in the beginning of my career, talking about royalties, you can see immediately after 6 months, approximately, if a product was selling, and if it was selling, it was staying there for 10 years. And then it was going down. Now you launch a product, you need to wait. If the company want to wait, at least 2, 3 years before it start to penetrate the market, then it's going up and maybe quite fast. It stay there for 2 years and then it's dead.
Yeah.
So, for example, I mean, I'm not a designer that are looking to design bestseller. I prefer to design long seller. But I realized that all my long seller was designed 10 years ago. So I don't know if I was much better 10 years ago with less experience or something strange happened in the market.
It's changed.
Yeah.
It's changed. The market's changed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're buying seasonally. Our sweaters, our socks, and our chairs.
Exactly. And also the houses.
And the houses too. Yeah.
Okay, so one last question, sort of related to the changing world of design. This is from Kaija Vogel. She says, Luca and John, hello. You have a group of OCAD-U students listening today. OCAD-U is one of the universities here that is focused on art and design. What advice can you give young designers finishing their design studies to help them stay authentic while looking for work, be it employment, collaboration, or taking their own projects to market?
Do you want to start, John?
Well, I think I may be the person that they're pitching to. You know, so I think you know, it's funny. I talked to Luke. I'm gonna steal a line from Luca, but it does ring true. You know, it is through this whole talk we've mentioned personal relationships, you know, over and over and over, and it you know, we've gotten so used to I don't know, sending an email, sending a PDF. I mean, I don't know how many cold calls per day from designers who, and it's not that they're good or bad. I don't even open them. I can't. They might not even have my name and the address to me. You know, I could be part of every furniture store CC'd, right? So, I mean, I think that if you're personally, like, if you're talking about authenticity, I mean, that's yourself, right? Like you represent your work's representing yourself and your value systems. So I think you have to almost present yourself. I mean, I've gotten people coming into the store and I can't send them away. You know, I got to talk to them, and that's good. I had phone calls. I had people send me packages in the mail, and you get something like that, and you can't ignore it. You have to kind of you want to respond to it. And I think it's those, maybe a bit more nostalgic, but you know, those things I think that people connect with. And then if maybe your work's not great, but if you know, if you're a nice person, then somebody will actually want to give you feedback. They'll actually want to take the time, maybe give you an honest critique, maybe help you, and maybe at that moment that's what you need. So I think, yeah, like that's the big thing from somebody who gets a lot of cold calls, who in a non-emotional and non-judgmental way deletes them because I can, and I just can't, you know, respond to them anymore. That would be good advice. Luca has even better advice, so just wait.
Maybe I agree with you that I think that the relationship is very important, and how you build up that. But I would be a little bit more cynic in my answer and saying that I hope that the new generation are not looking at us as a designer, just trying to copy and paste what we did in terms of career, in terms of typology that we design, in terms of the company that we work with, etc. Of course, can be to have the same kind of ambition, and to be ambitious is very important. But I think the new generation, young designers, should look the world with different eyes and trying to understand what really design can do to make a better society. And that means finding the real needs of people. That, as I say before, I don't think that to design a new sofa is what the people need. I think we are enough in that field. And if you are a star, a genius, of course you can jump into that circle without any problem. But I think the world needs so many other good things in terms of design that can improve our life, that their impact will be much stronger and much bigger than just the furniture industry or the lighting industry. And if I was a young student right now, that is the kind of angle that I was trying to look as a designer. Because I think the crisis, economical also crisis, probably, this is my personal opinion, will come next year. The industry will shrink even more, and there will be probably less commission, or especially if a lot of venture capital is behind, as we say before, the companies are probably being acting in terms of safe, to be safe. So they will probably hire a designer that is just well known. And so for the young people, it will be even harder jumping into that. So, but that is not something that needs to be seen in a bad way. I think can be seen in opportunity to explore other situations. And sometimes I'm also a little bit jealous because I've loved to see different things. And so I'm hoping really that the young people, university, design school, etc., trying to help the designer to look in much more broader way what design can really do, because I think it's amazing what we can do.
Professor Luca.
Yes.
Yeah, I wrote this because I did a lesson a couple of hours ago.
That's a great way to wrap up the talk. Thank you both so much for sharing your thoughts and insights with us. We really appreciate it. We've gotten a lot of comments from people who just were really inspired by the conversation. And we also got a lot of questions that we weren't able to answer, but I think we did a great job, and I really appreciate your joining us. And I wish you guys the best, and hopefully we can all reunite in person one day soon. And I just want to wish you both to stay well. Hope your families are well. And thank you to our viewers and our attendees, and thank you to the Italian Cultural Institute. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And prepare the beer for me when I came in Toronto next time.
Got it chilling.
I will be hungover for 2 months after.
I can't wait.
Yeah,
See
me too.
Thanks.
Okay.